Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to another FIFA 22 video where today I'm going to be sharing with you my super high press custom tactics and what I think, in my opinion, are the best high press custom tactics that I have used this year. I really like this formation, which is the 4-4-2, as you guys can see. It's a brilliant formation for pressing in. The reason why is because it's very good at sort of man marking people, and obviously pressing is all about man marking and obviously giving your opponents no space. And a 4-4-2, I think, is one of maybe 2 or 3 excellent formations at pressing and the most effective formations at pressing. Now, you've got to have the right players to be able to do it. And I've done it very, very well with this formation, but my team massively needs upgrading. I need to spend some time on the game just actually upgrading my team because it's not quite good enough to do the job that I need it to do. But you obviously need to have players that have got high stamina because stamina gets drained for the likes of, as you can see, baby Steven Gerrard and Pogba got quite low stamina, so they get drained very, very quickly, especially if you use this. If you plan on using this formation from minute 1, you need players that have got high stamina because obviously by the end of the game the stamina is going to be drained and it's going to be very easy for your opponent to get past you. So you do need to have high stamina in your players if you intend on playing this all game. And in terms of the tactics, these are the tactics. So we're going press on possession loss for the defensive style. Something I've seen a lot recently is a lot of people have started to play on press. When I've been coming up against a lot of people, whether it be rivals, whether it be champs, the playoffs, a lot of people are starting to use press. A lot of people, I think, are using pressure on heavy touch, not pressure on possession loss. But pressure on possession loss, I find works very, very well for me. Has been a little bit ineffective, as I said, because of the team I've got. But I think if you get the right personnel, it's very, very effective because it's very difficult to play against a press this year in the game. There's just a hint of lag in the game, a hint of button delay. You know, it's not as bad as it used to be, especially if you're on PS5, but it's just ever so slightly there. So playing on a press can be quite tricky because that button responsiveness isn't quite there. But playing on a press, especially if you've got the right players, the right formation, it's very, very effective. In terms of the depth, we're going on 75. The reason we're going on 75 depth is because, well, you know, it needs to be quite high. You go on 70, but it needs to be relatively high. You can't press from 30 or 40 depth. You do have to have quite a high depth. Now, that is obviously going to leave you open to counterattacks, but if you're playing high pressure, you know, that's kind of the risk-reward of playing high pressure. Obviously, the reward is you win it high up the pitch, you get more chances, and the risk is obviously you leave spacing behind for your opponents. But you have to play on a high depth to make it more effective because the lower the depth you play, the less effective a press is going to be because the more distance your team has to cover before they can start pressing the opponent. So you do need to, I wouldn't recommend going under about 60. I think 60 is kind of the minimum you need to go. So anywhere from 60 to sort of 75 I'd recommend is the range. I wouldn't go too high like 100. I think that's just suicidal, but anything between 60 and 75. We've then got fast build-up and direct passing for the build-up play and chance creation. And this is because if you're playing press, you're playing quite aggressive, you're playing quite attacking. So fast build-up is going to work. You know, obviously it's going to work with kind of that chaotic style of football you're trying to play. The fast build-up is just going to mean your attacks. It is, as I said, it's going to all boil into the same pot of you're going to be left open at certain moments. But if you're choosing to play this way, now these sets of tactics generally I use for sort of the last 20 or 30 minutes of a game if I'm, you know, 1 down or 2-1 down, 2-0 down, something like that. And so far it's got me back into so many games. It's done a really good job at getting me back into a lot of games. But playing with that fast build up just means that your attacks, you've got to also play fast, you've got to play one touch, you've got to play quick. You know, you can't dawdle on the ball because otherwise your team gets out of possession a lot. And obviously the direct passing is great for the strikers, but it does kind of muddle up your team a little bit. So you've got to be prepared to have some chaotic defending situations. Offensive width, we're going again on around about sort of 60. I think anywhere from 60 to 70. You want to obviously utilize the width in the team, but not open it up too much because one of the things that you don't want to do, especially using fast build up, direct passing and press on possession loss, is you don't want to open up the team too much because you're going to open up the midfield very, very easily. And you're going to have no players in the midfield to cover. So if anything, you could potentially, if you would like, you could go really narrow for sort of like 40 and have sort of a very compact back four. I found for me though, going on around about 60 so far has worked. You know, I haven't tried too much going with the lower width because I like the sort of 60. It's just worked, and when something's working, you don't want to change it. And then players in the box, we're going to go up to around about 7, just have a few more players in the box. Again, this is more for sort of getting back into a game, you know, last 30 of a game. So we're going to have obviously a few more players in the box and then corners on 3, free kicks on 1. Now, starting up top with the 2 strikers, Son and this Gelson Martins, which is absolutely amazing. I really like this Gelson Martins. It suits my the way I like to play very, very well. We've got them both on stay central, both on getting behind and both on stay forward again. Because if we're going to be playing press on possession loss, we don't really want to be having these guys on basic defensive support, because that means they're going to drop off like the centre backs and you're going to give them space. If we leave them on stay forward, they're kind of going to stick to the centre back. So when the centre backs get the ball and you're on press on possession loss, they're right on them immediately. So there's going to have no time on the ball. You know, when sometimes you get pressed and you feel like the guy is straight on top of you, and that's because they're using like press on possession loss, press on heavy touch, but they've got their strikers on stay forward, so they stick to your centre backs, so that obviously they can get the ball off you immediately. So that's gonna mean that these guys, obviously with their speed as well, are going to be able to really dissect the centre backs. In terms of the two midfielders, Gerrard and Verratti, like I said, obviously you got to get your personnel right. But these guys just on balance, completely on balance. You know, the only thing that's changed is obviously they're on cover centre. But everything else is exactly the same on balance. In terms of the wide players, now obviously Pogba is somebody that I sub off immediately, and I bring on, I think it's Carrasco I normally bring on for the right wing. But we've got these guys on stay forward and getting behind. Obviously these guys want to be on stay forward as well, because we kind of want to just have that four up front, really, to kind of like you know, use it for that press as well, kind of that umbrella at the top end of the pitch, to make sure that our opponent can't just chip balls out to fullbacks, so that the wide players also press onto the fullbacks as well, so they don't just have an easy out ball to get out from the press. But obviously we're going to use them on stay forward, get into the box, obviously, because it's an attacking formation. Obviously if you've got speedsters, getting behind is going to work well, hence why we said we take Pogba off in order to bring Carrasco on. Also normally we bring off Bernardo Silva and bring on Insigne as well, so that's going to allow those guys to obviously utilize their speed and their nous and get forward and create a lot of chances for us. And in terms of the fullbacks and set on defense, you know, obviously the centre backs both going to be on stay back while attacking. The fullbacks, of course, you could have these guys on join the attack. I don't think it's really necessary. I think when you're playing on press on possession loss, the whole team pushes up anyway, so the fullbacks will find themselves higher up the pitch than they normally would. You know, they're not going to be super deep. They're going to find themselves a bit higher up the pitch anyway. So I don't think you need to put them on join the attack or anything like that. You don't want to go, like I said, you don't want to go too kamikaze with this, because, you know, you are going to, for me, I play with this generally. If it's sort of 60 minutes into a game and I'm 2-0 down, obviously I'm going to have to play 30 minutes with this formation. You know, I don't want to go like 100 depth and everybody on get forwards and super aggressive, because then I could just concede a third goal within 2 or 3 minutes and all of a sudden it's 3-0 and I'm completely out of the game. I want this formation to be attacking, and we've made this formation instructions, tactics attacking, so that you can maintain that whole press and that whole attack for 30 minutes, not just lose the game within 2 or 3. And obviously Czech is going to be on comes crosses and sweeper keeper. So these are my tactics and instructions. Obviously for me it's been pretty successful, but I don't have the best personnel to do this. I'm sure a lot of you guys have probably got much better squads than I have. So if you are using this, make sure that you've obviously got the right players. You know, make sure you've got players that have obviously speed in the right areas, so on the wings and up front, and stamina in midfield, because obviously for that last 30 minutes, they're going to get drained quite heavy. So make sure you do have those right ingredients, and you'll find this formation very successful. If you want to try this out and add this to your instruction, you can see we got it on our ultra attacking game plan, but I wouldn't recommend using this from minute 1 just for sort of like the last 30 in a game if you are losing. But that's it for today's video, guys. So if you did enjoy, do drop a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe as well if you are new to the channel. All for today, guys. Have an awesome day.